Today's guest is Brina Kay, a visionary artist based out of Nashville. Brina's got big dreams and has a sound to back them up. Welcome, Brina.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for being on. So let's start back at the beginning. Where were you born and raised? And then how did music first come into your life?
So I'm originally from Schaumburg, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, kind of like an hour out from the city. And I actually learned to play the violin when I was in kindergarten. So I think that really laid a foundation for me not only enjoying music but understanding it. But I was also involved with musical theater. I was a very energetic child who needed an outlet, and musical theater was it. So I did our local like Christmas plays, and then got involved in all kinds of things. I sang the national anthem for our minor league baseball game, and I've just always really loved to sing and perform. So I just kind of started like that and never grew out of it. I went to college and was studying journalism, and as awesome of a career path as that was, I was taking random classes in the arts like dance and choir and things that I did not need to take to graduate, but took them because I missed it. And then when I graduated, I kind of just had to decide, okay, am I going to have a normal life, or I'm going to do what I always wanted to do since I was a kid? And I couldn't do the normal life. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to move to Nashville and see what I can do.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's unpack that a little bit, all these stuff you just talked about. What kind of music were you listening to? What was around you when you were growing up? Were your parents musical or was it just you, or how was that?
The earliest I can remember is I was obsessed with the Chicks. We had their CD in the car, and I always wanted to play it. So I think I always kind of gravitated towards country, but of course I liked musical theater, and High School Musical when I was younger too was a big thing. So I think there's like all these different elements, which I think also kind of lends itself to why what's unique about me and my sound is that it's not just, oh, okay, only country, only pop, only this. It's like, okay, pulling elements from these different areas in music that I love and appreciate, and kind of making my own sound. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
that's what's fun about music, is like there's so much you can do with it and so much you can pull from.
Exactly. Do you still use those influences today for like violin and like dance? Do all those incorporate somehow, or is it kind of just some things are kind of just in the past now, but you're still focusing on the artist side?
Yeah, definitely. I don't play as much violin. I kind of want to get back into it, and I need to learn how to play the guitar. So that's something definitely on my list. But I think, a lot of those things play into the way that I think, which plays into the way that I write songs and the way that I kind of creatively approach production of a song, working with my producer. And like, I'm glad that I have a producer who can kind of understand Brina speak,
Yeah.
where I, will say something kind of off the wall, but it makes sense in that context. And it's just pulling inspiration from all these other places that might not be as conventional. It might not be, oh, okay, this is like a country song, so it has to have this, this, and this. It's like, okay, but like, can we add a little pop over here, and you know, throw in a slide guitar and mix that all up, and have some dramatic element for the musical theater side. So I think it's just a really fun creative process, and you never really know what you're going to end up with, but it usually is something pretty good.
That's the exciting part sometimes, though, is that you never know. Like it's not a formula. You just see what happens, and that can create really special results. So, what during? So you went to college. Did you ever perform during that time, or was it kind of just school at that point? You kind of stopped there for performing, or were you always doing the performance and the music side as well?
I think my freshman and sophomore year, I was kind of, focusing on just getting to college, sorority rush, football games, like all that aspect of it. But kind of as I was going through my classes, I was missing that element, that artistic element, because I was still doing musical theater and dance in high school, and I wasn't doing that at all in college. So that's when I kind of started taking those classes and getting involved in things that were not on the path to my major. And I also started playing open mics around town. And in doing that, I actually got together with a acoustic duo, and literally at the mall, like there was an open mic at the mall, and I met them. And I asked one of them, I don't know how it got to that, but I'm kind of a go-getter, so I saw an opportunity to say, "Hey, would you mind playing guitar for me at this next thing?" Because at that point, I was just had uh, like instrumentals on my phone that I was plugging in and like basically singing karaoke with.
Yeah.
So with my own songs that I got on online, but that's another story. But yeah, and so I joined up with them and we sounded really good together. So they kept inviting me to go play with them. So I kind of was part of a band for a little bit that last summer before moving. So that was really fun. And I think that was a really good warm up to coming to Nashville. And that kind of got me back into, okay, I'm singing in front of an audience again. I think that was really important for me to come into Nashville and feel confident to perform in front of an audience here.
What was something you learned specifically during that time playing with that duo?
I think, they were very good at communicating with the audience and kind of just not just, okay, I'm here to sing and perform, but we're here to give you guys a great night. And there's a lot more to performing than just singing. Like you have to have the banter, you have to talk to the audience, you have to do the fun, like the holler and swaller, like the fun things that come with the show. And I think just getting more comfortable in that aspect of it because I had, been off, so to speak, for a while. So I hadn't been performing regularly and just kind of, settling down and getting back into feeling comfortable in front of an audience and talking to the audience and really making it about them and their night. I think that really helped me because in Nashville, it's all writers' rounds. So there's a big element of, can you talk to and connect with people? And I think that's just as important, if not more important, than when you're going to sing your song and introducing your song, like knowing how to introduce your song and talk about it and make it make sense. So,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's many, many ways to impact people, and it's all part of the puzzle. It all adds up.
mm.
So, when did you start writing your own music, and how did that first go?
So I wrote my first individual song towards the end of high school. I and that was kind of like I dabbled in it then and then kind of abandoned it until later when I was in college. But I remember we were talking, I don't know what we were talking about. We were talking about just like mediocrity, like in life. And I was like, oh, that really inspired me. So I wrote kind of a song about that, about just kind of like being stuck in a mediocre place and not having mobility. And then later on, kind of when I was having my sort of existential crisis where I was like, should I go after what my dream has always been since I was a kid, or is that not realistic? And I was up late at night, which I typically am, and I wrote just like this giant poem that was just like all my thoughts, and then I turned that into a song, and I found a company online that did like production instrumentation, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just like, okay, I have the song, I want to make it into a recorded song. So how do I do that? Just like Googling. And I found this company that helped me make an instrumental. And then I found a local studio to record the vocals. And then that turned into my song. And I was like, hey, I really like this. I like this feeling of creating a song. And it just never really, it just stuck. And even when I tried to stray away from it, I just ended up going back. So
That's
ever
helpful.
since then, it's just been, once you get going on it, it's hard to walk away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. How would you compare your original songs, like your beginning songs, to how you're writing now and what your sound is like now?
Oh, it's so much better. I think just I was fortunate enough to make some connections early on and meet with a group of songwriters like weekly where everybody shares a song and then people give feedback. So I was kind of with that group for an entire year. So that really like just getting feedback from other writers and hearing like songs from other writers really helped me grow immensely. And then as far as, the production value too, like I said before, I didn't really know what I was doing. I found companies online and was doing things separately, but actually being in the studio with a producer who's like very in on the creative process as well and having that collaboration, uh, that made a night and day difference too. I have like if you want to check it out, I have all of my old stuff on SoundCloud and comparing that to kind of like what it is now. It's just it's good to see progress.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you were in that group with the songwriters and then working with producers for the first time, was it hard to take that feedback at first? Like, or were you always accepting and so willing to take what other people say and use it to better yourself? Like, how's that been for you? And have you had to grow with that?
Yeah, I think, anyone who says they're 100% okay with, you know, I think there's a difference between feedback and criticism. So I think like feedback is easier because it comes from a place of wanting to be helpful. And I think especially the Nashville way is to like approach things with kindness. So, you're never going to be like, that was horrible. Like, need to fix that verse. Like, no, people are nice. So I don't think that is as hard, but I think just like criticism and someone says they don't like your song or they don't like, I submit to a lot of Spotify playlists and get feedback like that, where they're just like, I don't like it or I don't. And that's always going to be hard. But I think just taking what is constructive out of what the criticism is. And sometimes too, like having, having the confidence in yourself to not take all feedback. That's a big part of it too. Like you can hear somebody out and hear what they have to say and then decide like, thank you for your feedback, but I really like this part of my song and I'm going to keep it. So I think it's both elements of knowing, okay, there's consensus around confusion on this line, so I should relook at this line. And oh, this person says, this verse isn't. They don't really like this verse. I think it could be stronger, but this verse has a lot of meaning to me, so I'm going to keep it in there. So it's like
Yeah.
having that balancing act of, being open, but also like being sure of yourself and what you want to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure it's a process over time. You have to learn and kind of learn how to balance it. I mean, it doesn't come all at once, you know. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's totally true. So when you first decided to move to Nashville, how was that move like? And like, what was your first experience being there? And what were the first steps you took to ingrain yourself with Nashville?
I would say it was very chaotic. I felt very in over my head. I had moved to Nebraska or went to school at the University of Nebraska. That was a move I made completely by myself. So I kind of thought I had that in the bag. Like, oh, I've moved alone before, knowing nobody. I made friends. Like, it was easy. College, moving to college and moving to just being adult is two very different experiences. So I was not prepared for just like feeling very alone, feeling very like, what the heck am I doing? Why did I think that I could just come here and it would be okay? A lot of things went wrong immediately. Like I was working at an ice cream shop. I got fired within 2 weeks because
Oh
I
man.
did dumb things like lock myself out of my apartment and was
Oh
late to
no.
work and stuff like that. So it was really difficult. But I think just taking the little opportunities that I did have and finding opportunities in the setbacks really helped me. Like the night actually I got fired from the ice cream shop, I didn't have work, so I went to a barbecue with a friend where I ended up meeting my producer who has produced all of my songs. And when we met, and typically you meet people, you say, "Oh yeah, I'll check out your stuff. You check out my stuff." For some reason, in my old stuff, he saw something that he thought was cool and um, met up with me and offered to do my first song for me like free of charge, just so we could kind of get to know each other. And I was like, that's perfect because I have no money. So I think just finding that balance and keep on going even when it feels like it's falling apart. And that actually kind of that whole story became my song Rome. Like I needed to live through those experiences to write that song, which then became my first music video. So I think it was very challenging, but also led to some pretty cool things.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. And so cool about how, you know, that missed opportunity of, or I guess just a bad night of not having work turned into something that was so good going forward, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like serendipitous. I feel like I've had a lot of those moments here where like I'm kind of just stumbling along and somehow find myself in the right place at the right time. But I think like taking the initiative of to just take the steps in the first place is what counts. Like there's so many talented people in the world, but not everybody has the guts to make the move or do the thing or sign up to play. So I think half the battle is just showing up not really knowing what you're doing, but doing it anyway. And that's more than all the talent and the training in the world, I feel like, is just taking the initiative.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it seems like random things can happen to anybody, like little opportunities can come up. But I feel like there's something that comes from putting yourself in those places where the most opportunities can happen to you. Like moving to Nashville, going to these social events, stuff like that.
Definitely. I always kind of use the metaphor of, they say, oh, it's like lightning striking. Okay, but if you want lightning to hit you, like if you go to a very tall place and hold a lightning rod, then that greatly increases your chances of getting hit by lightning. So you got to just take the steps to make the rare thing not so rare.
Yeah, exactly. So how long have you been in Nashville now to this point?
I think I'm like 2 years, I would say. It's kind of crazy because it feels like a very long time and not a long time at all at the same time, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. But I think I'm a little over 2 years now, which is
Wow.
wild. Because again, like I feel like I've just moved here, but I also feel like I've been here for 10 years. So
Yeah, for sure.
it moves fast, but it I don't know. There's always new things to discover too. So
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's such a, not just a big city, but such a fluent city where things always happening. What's something
yeah,
you,
I feel like
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I just feel like it's kind of a big small town. And
Yeah.
it's been interesting to be the person, like, as new people come, because new people are always coming, and kind of being the one that's like helping other people and telling them, hey, check out this place or do that thing, like being that role of the not, definitely not like seasoned veteran by any means,
Yeah.
but like someone who's been here and knows things versus being completely new. It's kind of been fun to play that role too.
Yeah, I'm sure. So what's something you wish you would have known in those first 6 months of moving there that you've learned over time?
Hmm. I don't know. It's really hard to think of that because I feel like it was just such a blur, honestly. Um, I don't know. I almost feel like the not knowing, which it was is what led me to be able to just do random things that like allowed me to achieve what I have. So
Interesting.
I think, yeah, I think you almost got to be a little naive to do this kind of thing. So if you
Interesting.
know too much, that it's like you convince yourself that you can't do it. You got to be like like crazy enough to believe that you can succeed. Um, I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like following that
Maybe,
path. I mean, if you give it stuck
yeah,
on a certain path, you're not going to find all the little trails that go off elsewhere that can give you huge opportunities.
maybe just like a better sense of direction and familiarity with the city. I had only visited Nashville one time before just moving my entire life there. So I think I might have felt more comfortable if I had done more visits and maybe, made more connections prior to moving than just doing it when I had just moved there. But I think, I did what I could and took advantage of the opportunities that I could have. And I don't know. It's hard to say you would change things because then it's like the butterfly effect. Like one little thing could change so many
Yeah,
things. But maybe being a little more familiar with the city before
yeah,
moving.
makes total sense. Yeah. So what do you have coming up? Like, do you have any recordings coming up? Any plans for live music? What's in your plans?
So I've actually been working on an EP. It will be my very first EP, so I'm very excited about that. I actually raised the money over quarantine on Kickstarter to help fund it. So that's been really exciting. The fact that there's actually like people out there who want to hear what I have to make and will like, put their money down in order to make that happen, like that means a lot to me. But yeah, I'm recording demos with my producer right now. We picked out, I went through all of my songs that I've ever written, and we picked 10 that we thought would be good and kind of offer a variety, and then we're going to narrow it down to 5. So once we're finished with all the demos, we're going to put those out, see what people think, and then yeah, narrow it down to 5, and that's kind of my next big project. And I'm hoping to get back out live soon. I got my first COVID vaccine, so I'm getting
Oh,
the
nice.
second one on the 22nd. And then after that, I'll probably be definitely more willing to go out and play more in public.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, it's great to see everything starting to open back up a little slowly, but hopefully by the summer things will be going back to normal with, musicians and live music and all that. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, definitely. I've been very, very cautious this entire year, but I'm excited to have that vaccine and still be careful, but maybe play a little more, especially outdoor shows and things like that. But I miss it so much. It's been because I haven't performed live in literally in a year. Like I've done some Zoom shows, but I've been very careful just because it is a respiratory thing which affects your ability to sing. And so I've just been like nothing.
Yeah, that makes
I'm
sense.
yeah. So I can't wait.
Yeah. What are your long-term goals with the music? What do you want to accomplish?
I want to be able to do it full time, and I want like my biggest prize when I see like okay, this is like where I feel like I've truly made it is when I'm touring at stadiums. Like that's what I visualize at night when I'm trying
Yeah,
to manifest things. Like
big
I
dreams.
think yeah, I think like awards and things like that would be cool, but I think just being able to fill a room or fill a stadium and have people know your songs well enough where you can stop singing and they sing them back to you. I think that would be the most meaningful thing. And
Yeah,
possibly to be like a guest on Shark Week. That would also be
that'd be
fun.
cool. That'd be awesome. Have you ever
Yeah.
been to a stadium show, or like what's the best show you've been to in your life?
Ooh, I saw Luke Bryan at Soldier Field, and he had like three openers who were amazing artists in their own right. Like I think he had Dirk Bentley and Rodney Atkins opening for him,
Wow.
and that was just that was incredible. And it's so fun just seeing like people with their phones and the lights. And I just, me again, going back to the musical theater, I love a huge production. Like I want lights and fire and like lifts and smoke and all that fun stuff that I think only a larger venue can allow. I enjoy like the more intimate small shows, but I was definitely made to do big shows. So
Yeah.
I want something big enough that can like handle all my energy.
Yeah.
And I'm just running around and there's fireworks and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And it's important to have like, because there are a lot of artists out there who are just perfectly comfortable playing the small shows the rest of their life, and who just love that. And that's great. But you also need the artists who want to fill the stadiums, who want the larger than life sound and presence and stuff. And then there just needs to be all sorts of artists to fill all corners of the spectrum of music. So that's great that you have those dreams and stuff. And I think you have a great sound. I think, you're on a way to go on good places. It's gonna be great.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Of course. Hey, well, thanks for talking with me today. I've learned a lot about your story and I've loved hearing about it. And like I said, I think you're going places. I think you've got a lot going for you.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm really excited about what you're going to be doing with this app. It sounds really exciting and really helpful to artists. And thanks for also doing the podcast and giving a platform for artists like me to tell our stories.
Yeah, of course. So, one last question. Where can our listeners find you on social media?
I am pretty much everywhere. And if you want to find it all in one place, just go to brinakmusic.com. But I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter at Brina Kay Music, and of course on all the streaming platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Tidal, the works. Anywhere I can be, I try to put myself. So, but if you want to find it all, go to brinakmusic.com and subscribe to my email list because my email subscribers get news before everybody else does. They get special deals and discounts on things. So if you want to kind of be on the inside club and get all the info and all the cool stuff exclusively and before everybody else, definitely get on that email list.